A bullet is a projectile fired at a high rate of speed from a firearm. In one end is the projectile, a lead core jacketed in copper. This sits firmly in the end of a metal casing filled with gunpowder. On the other end of the casing is a firing cap that ignites the gunpowder when struck by the firing pin. These projectiles have evolved over centuries and have become increasingly accurate and effective. We're going to bring you up to the present, all the way from the beginning.
The first black powder, which consisted of sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter, was developed in the early 1200s. Its potential to propel projectiles was soon realized and harnessed. The first guns were essentially miniature cannons, pipes sealed at one end lit with a fuse. It was not until the 1600s that the predecessors of guns as we know them today started to develop.
Muskets were the first firearms that resemble the ones that we use today. They had a smooth-bore barrel and fired spherical lead balls. Subsequently, they were highly inaccurate over any considerable distance. Black powder was poured down the muzzle and the musket ball followed. The black powder was ignited with a percussion cap made of mercury fulminate, which sent sparks into the barrel via a secondary valve when struck by the hammer. These weapons were tedious to load. Loading also required standing up, which meant soldiers were large targets for any enemies with loaded weapons.
Accuracy was greatly improved with the development of the rifle barrel. The first rifles were simply muskets with rifling in their barrels. Rifling refers to spiraling grooves cut down the length of the barrel interior that spin the projectile as it travels down the barrel. When in flight, this spin stabilizes the projectile and makes it significantly more accurate over distance. The Minié ball, invented by Claude Minié, was the first firearm projectile that was elongated with a tapered forend. This shape also greatly improved accuracy as well as penetration.
Paper cartridges were the first development in self-contained ammunition. While the percussion cap was still a separate piece, the gunpowder and ball were both contained in a singular cartridge made of paper. Unlike modern shell casings, the cartridge had to be ripped open on the back so the percussion cap could directly ignite the gunpowder. Nonetheless, these were the first predecessors to modern shell casings.
In 1845, French inventor Louis Flaubert invented the first self-contained rounds. The casings were in fact modified percussion caps made to hold a bullet in one end. However, these rounds did not contain a powder charge and as such were severely underpowered. Also, the entire casing was a firing cap, instead of a metal casing with a small firing cap on the back. This meant that the casing was thin and weak, and could not have held a powder charge without rupturing. Effective ammunition with metal shell casings would not be invented for another 6 years.
Metal shell casings didn't come around until 1851, when Edward Maynard invented the first bullet housed in a metal cartridge and a gun to use it. The percussion cap was still a separate piece. Where it now sits on the base of a modern shell casing was instead a hole to allow the sparks from the percussion cap to ignite the black powder within the casing. Maynard built a lever-action breech-loading rifle for this ammunition. The ammunition was loaded by hand and the chamber was closed by a lever mounted underneath the grip of the gun. After firing, this lever simultaneously opened the chamber for another round and injected the spent casing. This mechanism was the predecessor to the repeating lever-action rimfire rifles.
As time went on, the advancements in ammunition and firearms were great. All of the components of the modern-day bullet are contained within a singular package. No reloading is necessary in between individual shots anymore. Soldiers of the musket era were trained to reload and fire a single shot every 20 to 30 seconds. Modern guns can fire a bullet every 0.066 seconds or faster. They can also hold a large amount of ammunition in a magazine, generally from 20 to 100 rounds. Bullets come in numerous shapes and sizes, for different purposes, and some are capable of speeds faster than the speed of sound. There is no telling where ammunition and the gun that fire them will advance in the future.
That was a video.